Brentford, who drew 0-0 at Brighton last night, not a classic at Yannick. The visitors thought they'd scored here through Johan Wissa early in the first half. His strike ruled offside after a VAR check. Only their second away point of the season. Without a win for Brighton, who stayed 10. As I said, no Premier League or Scottish Premiership football today, but the injury woes continue for Tottenham, who could be without any fit centre-backs for tomorrow's Premier League game against Wolves. Wales international Ben Davies was nearing a return from a hamstring problem, but Ange Postecoglou says he'll be out for a while longer after a setback in training.
We're in the tough spot. We have been for a while. We've been kind of, getting through it for quite a while now, and keeping our fingers crossed to not getting more issues. But nature of football and kind of football the changes just meant that we're not a test first, but anybody, whatever we can do Sunday.
Rugby Union sailing up to third in the Gallagher Premiership after a fantastic 38-0 win over Bristol Bears at Ashton Gate. And that is Bristol's worst Premiership defeat at home in 8 years. Tom O'Flaherty ensuring the bonus points score, having a really impressive night for Sale, who finally have their first away win of the season. A 81-shot Val Dancer won the Welsh Grand National. The male rolling train horse coming home by electing incredibly filthy conditions at Chepstow, ridden by jockey Charlie Hammond. Val Dancer ahead of Jubilee Express in the end, whilst I Will Do It finished third. The reigning champion Luke Humphries and previous winners Gillian Price and Peter Wright are all into the fourth round of the PDC World Darts Championship, which is back up and running after the Christmas break. Humphries hadn't played for 12 days, off on his best, but still ended up easing to a comfortable final win against Wales' Nick Kenny will face a two-time champion Peter Wright in the last 16. And this was the moment of the day. Alexandra Palace, Damon Heta hitting a famous 9-darter during his third round match with Luke Woodhouse, sparking her celebrations from the Australian, earning £60,000. Did go on to lose the match though, Woodhouse the man making it through to the next round to face fan favourite Stephen Bunting. And you might have experienced the occasional kitchen nightmare making Christmas dinner. Got so thought the gold Formula One sketchy chef was going to miss the next few weeks after cutting his hand on broken glass whilst preparing a meal on Christmas Day. In a statement, his manager saying Scheffler sustained a puncture wound to the palm of his right hand from a broken glass. Small fragments remained, which required surgeries. Withdrawn from the opening tournament of the PGA Tour season at the centre next week, but has been told he should be back for 100% in 3 to 4 weeks. Not the first sports person to injure themselves at home.
What do you reckon? Carving the turkey?
Yeah, we need more details.
Peeling the potatoes.
And champagne, and it all went wrong. Be careful in that kitchen.
Jason, thank you.
Just after 7:30, many of the hundreds of lighthouses dotted around the British Isles have been standing tall for centuries, and despite changing technology, they continue to provide an important beacon for today's sailors.
They face constant coastal exposure, of course. Many of these ageing structures require regular, routine maintenance, as our Scotland correspondent Lorna Gordon has been finding out.
On the southernmost tip of Scotland, a disc of light illuminated the darkness with the dawn.
Well, at the start here, we can see that other end of Wicknell moving around. You can actually see Cumberland today, which is really very unusual.
Barry Miller is the lighthouse keeper for the Mull of Galloway. He's one of the long line of them, keeping sailors here safe for close to 200 years.
Well, this one flashes white in between the seconds. They're all different, yet each lighthouse has also got its own.
Barry retired from teaching in his mid 50s and has spent the 2 decades since looking after the northernmost lighthouses in Galway and Ayrshire. Further along this stretch of coastline, another of our older lighthouses, this one guiding the ferries heading to and from Northern Ireland.
There has been an important ferry port since about 1860, so
It's so busy today.
very busy, yeah. Well, the lighthouse is absolutely used by both ferry companies as the naval architect. Right? So it's here for a particular purpose to mark a particular point.
What's the biggest part of the job, or just the routine maintenance?
I suppose the routine maintenance is the biggest part, but there are all those things to do.
As the light fades, our final stop, Turnberry. Every day is different, says Barry, in a job where he's on call 365 days a year.
We're at another lighthouse in Somerset, and it's been really good.
It's been a long day, but it's very, very rewarding. These lighthouses have been there for 200 years, and there have been people exactly like me doing exactly what I'm doing.
Do you enjoy it?
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's very rewarding indeed, really. We try and keep these, what are essential navigation lanes, still going.
Our modern-day mariners have plenty of technology to help them, but these sentinels from another time facing out to sea are still important. And without our lighthouse keepers looking after them, our coastline would be a much more dangerous place. Gordon, BBC News, Turnberry.
Yeah, they play such a vital role, don't they? Such impressive looking buildings.
Absolutely. We'll be back with the headlines at 8. First, take a look back at some of the year's highlights from the world of sport.
2024 was an extraordinary 12 months of sport, a year dominated by some of the very biggest showpiece events. We had the men's Euros in Germany, where England came so close, the Paralympics and Olympics in Paris, where Great Britain once again excelled. Achievements honoured here at the year-ending BBC Sports Personality of the Year. More on that later. But 2024 was also a year where some of British sport's biggest stars took their final bows, the likes of Jimmy Anderson, Andy Murray, Tom Daley and Laura Kenny, to name just a few. But the year was also for new, exciting sporting talent. And that's where 2024 started. In January, the year was young, so too was the headline maker. 16-year-old Luke Little's journey to the final of the PBC Darts World Championship had everyone gripped. He was eventually beaten by Luke Humphries, the future of darts in steady hands.
It was a roller coaster. I'm glad I was a part of a good family. He deserved it. He played the better darts.
But the start of the year marked the beginning of a surprising end for others. Jurgen Klopp began his long farewell from Liverpool. Lewis Hamilton stunned everyone by announcing he'll leave Mercedes for Ferrari. And Lewis Rees-Savage raised eyebrows in January by switching to American football, leaving rugby union just as the Six Nations was about to start. Wales missed him, England missed out. This was Ireland's tournament again.
So the Six Nations begins in a bouncing Marseille. Try for Ireland again! Who could stop them on this form? What an effort from Alex Mitchell! And Naha has only one goal, one sight for the corner again! In they go! They've got it, Darlingwoods! No excitement around the Aviva Stadium. Nash! This great story ends. Oh, Lorenzo Pani! And Wales do have the wooden spoon.
Surely one of the finest teams the Irish have ever produced. The Irish champions of 2024.
between the two sides. That's what they're playing for. England have done it. A third successive Grand Slam. The champions are England's Red Roses.
England's Six Nations champions, champions of the world, or so they claim, were the Kansas City Chiefs. Super Bowl winners again, sharing the headlines with their most celebrated fan. Winners on the world stage too with the category were Wigan Warriors, the first silverware of their stellar year. Formula One season, meanwhile, began amid controversy. Allegations of inappropriate behaviour by Red Bull team boss Christian Horner. He was later cleared.
The team are very together. They're very focused on the season ahead, and have been tremendously supportive.
Whilst February also brought the first trophy of the domestic football season. The last, as it turned out, the Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, as they beat Chelsea in the League Cup final. An extra time goal, which coincidentally was the same story in the women's final. Chelsea beaten this time by Arsenal's late win. Glasgow hosted the World Indoor Athletics Championship in March.
Their champion is coming on!
Gold for Britain's Josh Kerr and Molly Cordery. A big year for the city as they were later confirmed as host of the Commonwealth Games in 2026. A wait for that. At Cheltenham, the wait was over. Willie Mullins' 100th winner at the festival, which the Irish trainer backed up with winners in the Gold Cup and Grand National. I am Maximus, triumphing at Aintree. There was a sombre start for this year's London Marathon as tributes were paid to the 2023 men's winner Kelvin Kiptum, the Kenyan world record holder killed in a road accident earlier in the year.
The world's greatest athletes in the world's greatest race.
Fittingly, the 2024 races were won by compatriots Alexander Matiso Maniel and Perez Chepchirchir, Catherine De Bruyne and Marcel Hug triumphing in the wheelchair race.
He is the best in the business.
London too saw success in basketball. Despite an uncertain future, the London Lions became the first British side to win a European trophy.
This is so big for British basketball, so amazing.
Whilst in Sheffield, there was a first world snooker title for England's Kyron Wilson. May was the month that domestic football seasons drew to a close, a succession of trophies, beginning at Wembley. Manchester United with their first Women's FA Cup. The Women's Super League reached a gripping finale. Chelsea forced to fight all the way to their fifth consecutive title in Emma Haynes' final game of charge. Things, unbelievably, were even more dramatic in Scotland. A 90th minute winner sealing the title for Celtic. For the men's side, a little less nurturing. A 12th title in 13 years, followed just days later with victory over Rangers in the cup final. In England, Manchester City's dominance continued, champions for the fourth year in a row, whilst the month ended as it began at Wembley. Manchester United finally getting the better of their cross-city run. There were no British sides involved in the big European finals. There was, though, a winner's medal for Jude Bellingham, his Real Madrid side, champions of the continent once again, with victory over Borussia Dortmund at Wembley. Elsewhere, Wales had its first women's world champion boxer, Lauren Price. Big fight of the month was in Riyadh. Tyson Fury beaten by Alexander Usyk. Back home, Northampton were crowned Rugby Union's Premiership winners. Glasgow Warriors champions of the United Rugby Championship. Rugby League, meanwhile, was in Warren. Rob Burrow, remembered by all of the challenge finals. The former player and MND campaigner passing away just days previously. St Helens win and Wigan Warriors men champions on a poignant day at Wembley. Across the Atlantic, the men's T20 World Cup, England though unable to successfully semis by India, who went on to defeat South Africa in the final. June, though, was dominated by events in Germany. Tens of thousands of English and Scottish football fans headed off to party at Heathrow.
A wonderful opening ceremony and hopefully a magical month ahead. Germany have the lead in some 10 minutes. Good feet, 2-0. Fukuoka. And it's in the net. Germany were simply miles better. Welcome to the start of another England adventure. This time, they really do actually sound like they're going to. One goal wins it for England. They've taken over the city of Cologne today. Everywhere you walked, there was Scotland blue. It's back to McTominay! Shaqiri! Steve Clark's side take it to the final game. Game 2 eliminated tournament, win it and get serious. And a real chance for Kane! And that's a good effort, oh, it's a wonderful strike! Goodness me, that was a hard watch at times. Are Scotland on the brink of something historic, or on the brink of yet another group stage exit? Somerset has emerged, Schumann! And Scotland are out of the European Championship! Despair again!
What I will say is thank you to the country because we felt everyone behind us. Sorry for letting you think.
It's a big night in Cologne. England safely through, but shut out by Slovenia. Lose to Slovakia, and that's it for England's Euro 2024. Strides has support. What a chance this is! And Slovakia lead! Seconds to go. And it's in! Salvation! And we're going to extra time. And there it goes from Eza and deflected back in the Kane! They are on their way. How they got there, I don't know. A real heavyweight tussle. Lifting it by Olmo. Miguel Marino has won it for Spain. What a game in store. Oh, he's hit the post. Welcome to the Dusseldorf Arena. Gareth Southgate has once again led England to the quarter-finals. Dog gets it across, and Switzerland score! Now something has to change. Saka having a go! Well, that didn't take long. It's going to penalties. How do you not even look at the ball? Pressure is for Tales. It's a different generation. She's England! It's Halbfinale dieser Europameisterschaft. Well, who's going to the final of Euro 2024? Nice goal! What an unbelievable goal! The 16-year-old! History beckons to make all the hard work to get this far worthwhile. England walk out for a semi-final. 6-0 to drive. Oh, what a goal! Here comes Kane. Here come England! Palmer finds Watkins. Watkins starts! Watkins scores! England are on their way to Berlin. Well, here we are. 4 weeks and 6 games later. These players carry the hopes of those who missed out, the ghosts and the soul of English football. Fans, players and coaches alike. It's going to go over to Williams now! Well, England never got started at all. Saka gets it through and Bellingham tries to tee up Palmer! Oh, yes! Ice cold precision from Palmer! Cucurella gets it back in! For England, the interminable wait goes on. Spain are again the champions of Europe.
Wanted to do it so badly for ourselves, but also for the fans and everybody who's believed in us the whole way. So right now it's just huge disappointment.
It would be Gareth Southgate's final campaign, standing down to be replaced eventually by Thomas Tuchel. But it wasn't just the end for Southgate. The summer of 2024 saw the final acts of some of British sport's very, very best, the likes of which we may never see again.
At Wimbledon, the talk was of Andy Murray. Would he, wouldn't he, one last time? Well, he did, in the doubles, albeit briefly.
Here alongside his older brother Jamie Murray to centre court. They didn't want to say farewell, they just want to say thank you to Andy Murray.
I want to play forever. I love the sport. It's given me, it's given me so much. I don't want to stop, so it is hard.
Thank you so much for everything, Andy Murray!
Always big for wanting more.
There would be British success, though, at Wimbledon. Actually, plenty of it.
The unseen combination, Harry Eliavara and Henry Patton are the Wimbledon champions. He wins his first Wimbledon wheelchair singles title. With it, he completes a historic career singles Grand Slam.
Arthur Hewitt, Gordon Reed retain their Wimbledon doubles title.
It's a Czech fairy tale. Finnish Manfred Julian is the Wimbledon champion.
A master craftsman at 21 years of age.
Across London, a farewell to another true sporting great.
Wonderful sight here at Lord's.
Jimmy Anderson bringing his incredible record-breaking England career to an end with his 704th Test win.
How many times have we seen this kind of delivery?
We'll never be better, we'll never be beaten. Take this in, Jimmy.
I love the game so much, it's not really sinking in that I'm still in my head, I think I'm still playing next week, weirdly. But I'm sure at some point it'll sink in. It's just been incredible.
Another extraordinary career ending was that of Mark
Cavendish, but not before the Manx missile created history at the Tour de France. A record 35th stage win, cementing his legacy as one of cycling and British sport's all-time greats.
As well as the highs, that suffering is what makes the race special. It's what grows you as a person, isn't it? So to feel that one last time is important to feel victory one last time.
Speaking of British sporting greats, Lewis Hamilton marked his final year with Mercedes, with victory at an enthralling British Grand Prix.
There we are, see you umbrellas.
At Royal Troon, the weather offered its worst. Xander Schauffele gave his best, winning the Open, his second major of a magnificent year. Later, Lydia Ko would triumph in the women's event at St Andrews. In Paris, security was being stepped up. The Olympics and Paralympics on their way. But one absence was Charlotte Dujardin. A medal at the Games would have made the dressage star Britain's most decorated female Olympian. Instead, footage of her repeatedly whipping a horse became one of the biggest controversies of the British sporting year. The Games would go on without her.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Welcome to an opening ceremony like no other.
Let it all begin.
Les Jeux de Paris, célébrant la 33e Olympiade des temps modernes.
Kicking off this Olympic Games for Britain.
Tom Pigott is the Olympic champion. This is the Gilded Age for British Messi.
Goal to Great Britain on the men's 4x200 metres freestyle relay. That is absolutely brilliant.
What an astonishing finish! I had never seen anything like that.
And they're popped up for TV.
just like that, it's the end of Andy Murray's tennis career.
You know, I gave as much as I could to the sport. I've been proud to be part of Team GB over the last 20 years, and yeah, definitely will miss it.
10年目先のペンズが40本の中部に失ったらね、ダメでしょう。前の方に過ぎて戦力がこうされてるんですよ。このです。結構現在のその中学の走るところで、その時の名前があってるのが、
Just took so much to get here.
PIT
I've already won.
で、その会社の賄賂配ったよって言って仕事を言うから、もう一人で今大事だし、で、一応そのアメリカの
Well, beneath the Olympics, not for Paris. Just over a fortnight later, the city threw open its doors once more for the Paralympics. More success for Britain's established stars like Hannah Cockcroft and the extraordinary Sarah Stewart. Her 18th and 19th goals at the age of 46. Alfie Hewitt, along with Gordon Reid, finally got his goals, whilst the future too looks bright. 5 medals for teenager Poppy Maskell and for Alice Tighe, and a medal too for the youngest member of the team, 13-year-old Iona Winifred, with a silver in the pool. Great Britain's Paralympians returning with 49 goals amongst their luggage across 18 sports. That's more sports than any other nation. For British athletes, summer in Paris was truly remarkable. August also saw another British sporting hero emerge, Jack Draper, making it all the way to the semi-finals of the US Open in what was his breakout year. A little further south, Golf's Solheim Cup got underway. A dominant opening day from the Americans left Europe with too much to do.
It's coming back to the United States for the first time in 7 years.
Team USA victorious in the year. September also saw the world of football honour the life of former England manager Sven-Göran Eriksson, who passed away at the age of 70. Here, one of the big British fights of the year, Daniel Dubois knocking out Anthony Joshua in front of a huge Wembley crowd. There was disappointment for England as they narrowly failed to make it out of the group stage of the Women's T20 World Cup. The men's side were in Pakistan, where Joe Root became England's leading Test match run scorer of all time. Meanwhile, Britain reached the final of the America's Cup for the first time in 60 years, although the wait for victory goes on.
Every time we compete in the America's Cup, we get one step closer, so next time it's a time to step up and go all the way.
Back home, on dry land, Wigan completed an historic clean sweep of all the major rugby league trophies.
Oh my word, that's sensational!
With grand final victory, York Valkyrie once again winning champions. Whilst the Formula One season reached its climax, Max Verstappen champion for a 4th consecutive season. Gracias to Rafa Nadal as he ended his incredible career at the Davis Cup. The final football trophy of the domestic year went again to Celtic, winners of an epic Scottish League Cup final against Rangers. But as the year drew to a close, time to look forward. For Wales, plenty to look forward to as their women's football team qualified for a major tournament for the first time, the Euros in 2025.
We're history makers and that will never get taken away from us.
Much further ahead, the decision in December to award a men's World Cup to Saudi Arabia will continue to draw scrutiny for many years to come. At the end of the year, Barty are moving to reflect 2024, a truly memorable sporting year.
The BBC Sports Personality of the Year 2024 is Keely Hodgkinson.
This year has been absolutely incredible for me. I've achieved everything I set out to do on the outdoor track. To get it. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Roger Johnson and Naga Ronchetti.
Good morning. Our headlines today. Thick fog is causing travel disruption around the UK, with flights cancelled and drivers warned to be careful on the roads.
And the mist and fog is just likely to linger on for many of us again today, particularly across the south of England and Wales. I'll have all the details later.
The TUC calls on the government to get serious about improving pay for public sector workers.
Documents released by the Irish National Archives reveal a Republican plot to poison the water supply in England in the late 1990s. Good morning. Arsenal closed the gap at the top of the Premier League. A 1-0 win over Ipswich moves them within 6 points of the leaders in Liverpool.
And a final delivery for Rocky, as the UK's longest-serving postman retires after 60 years of service.
It is Saturday, the 28th of December. Our main story on the programme today: forecasters have warned that thick fog, which has caused travel disruption around the UK over the past 24 hours, is likely to continue for much of the day.
Airline passengers are being warned of further cancellations and delays, with motorists also being urged to take extra care on the roads due to reduced visibility. Our reporter Simon Jones has the latest.
As the fog descended at Heathrow Airport, so did the gloom for the passengers caught up in the delays and cancellations it's been causing. Hundreds of flights at several airports, including Gatwick and Glasgow, have been affected, and one of the busiest times for travel during the festive break. At Manchester, those returning to the UK after Christmas abroad were relieved finally to touch down, even if it was much later than expected.
I know where it was, when we got on the plane, we said it could be another hour and a half because they're queuing up at this end because of the fog. So otherwise, we'd have been flying around with no fuel.
I think it was delayed by 2 hours or something like that, due to the fog and stuff. I'm glad to be back home.
This was the Merc of Cardiff. The UK's main air traffic control provider, NATS, put in place temporary air traffic restrictions due to the widespread fog. In a statement it said, "Restrictions of this sort are only ever applied to maintain safety. We continue to monitor the situation and have a Met Office expert embedded within our operation to ensure we have the latest available information. But there are warnings that this might not be quick to resolve."
The airlines, despite all their best efforts last night,
will be faced with a big problem this morning, that their planes and their pilots aren't necessarily in the right place to start getting people where they need to be. So I'm afraid disruption could continue all day, and if fog remains, then that is going to be very disruptive for tens of thousands of passengers.
Drivers are being urged to take care on the roads too, as many make the journeys home from family and friends. The tricky conditions have been created by persistent low cloud, mist and fog being trapped in place by a slow-moving area of high pressure.
That moisture has created a lot of cloud that's got lower and lower, which has allowed us to have an awful lot of misty and murky conditions, particularly on Friday, which had a few impacts for those at the airport. Good news though is that today the winds will pick up, so you can see that clouds start to break up in the north. Still pretty misty and murky day for much of England and Wales.
The fog has created some stunning scenes, and those hoping to travel today will certainly be glad to see the back of these wintry wonders. Simon Jones, BBC News.
And of course, Elizabeth will keep us up to date with the weather throughout the programme. It's 4 minutes past 8. Roger, a focus again for the government and criticism of the government not using what resources it has in terms of money for public sector pay.
Yeah, heading towards the new year and calls from a big union for an improved pay deal for public sector workers, Naha. A leading union boss calling this morning on the government to get serious about improving pay for public sector workers. The comments, which have been made by the TUC General Secretary Paul Novak, come after some unions have raised the prospect of renewed industrial action in the new year. Let's talk to our political correspondent Joe Pike, who joins us. So Joe, morning to you. Slightly awkward, Labour government, reasonably newly into power, has done a deal with some public unions already, and now they're being put under pressure saying there's no money, but by other unions who want some more too.
It certainly is, Roger, and Paul Novak does represent 5.5 million workers. The backdrop to all of this is the industrial action we've seen in recent years, in particular in the NHS, junior doctors and nurses striking, that adding to the backlog, adding to waiting lists. And when Labour got into power in Downing Street, they wanted to turn the page on that industrial action, and they did that partly by giving some workers above inflation pay rises. Notably, junior doctors got on average 22% over 2 years. Junior doctors in England, of course, because health is devolved. Nurses, some teachers, paramedics got 5.5%. But the government now says there isn't enough money to go and repeat those sorts of pay rises, offering 2.8% to public sector workers over the next financial year. That is above inflation. And this was a response from the TUC's Paul Novak.
If you're serious about repairing and renewing our public services, you have to be serious about public sector pay. So, yes, our unions will be making a case for decent pay rises for their members. They'll be arguing for those pay rises to be properly funded, so they don't come at the expense of services delivered on the front line. And I hope that the government will sit down and sort of work those issues through with unions and with the workforce.
But that assessment from Paul Novak is a little more diplomatic than some other trades union leaders. The British Medical Association, which represents doctors, has said the government have a poor grasp of the issues. The Royal College of Nursing has called this 2.8% pay offer deeply offensive. The government, though, Roger, argue that 2.8% is above inflation, but public sector workers often get better pensions than private sector workers, and they also point to the economic outlook and state of public finances. The message from government seems to be, if those independent pay review bodies want to give workers in the public sector more than 2.8%, well, government departments will need to find cuts elsewhere.
Joe, thank you very much, Joe Pike. Now, a man has been charged with the murders of 2 women who died in Milton Keynes on Christmas Day. 49-year-old Jaswell Brown is accused of killing Joanne Pearson, and Tiona Grant is also charged with the attempted murders of another man and a teenage boy. The United States says that early indications suggest a plane which crashed in Kazakhstan on Christmas Day, killing 38 people, may have been brought down by Russian air defense systems. The Azerbaijan Airlines flight is thought to have come under fire as it tried to land in Chechnya before being diverted. The Russian authorities have refused to comment. More than 1,000 North Korean soldiers who are engaged in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine have been killed or wounded in the past week. That's according to US intelligence. It's thought that Pyongyang may have deployed up to 12,000 individuals to to assist its ally Russia in exchange for technological support. The World Health Organization says that Israeli forces have put the last major health facility in northern Gaza out of service. Israel says Hamas, which is designated as a terrorist organization by the UK, was using the Kamal Adwan Hospital as a command centre. Our correspondent Naha in Jerusalem for us this morning. Emir, good morning to you. Just tell us more about what we know about what happened at this hospital.
Well, from what we understand is now that the hospital has been completely emptied of medical staff and patients after it was forcibly evacuated yesterday morning by the Israeli military. We've been hearing from Palestinian medical officials who say that they lost contact with some of the hospital staff that were in the facility, and they understand that others have been taken for questioning and interrogation, including the director of the hospital, Dr. Hassan Abu Safia. Now, the World Health Organization says it's deeply concerned about the health and the safety of some of the patients that were in the facility, because it's understood that many of those patients were moved to a nearby hospital, which was itself evacuated earlier in the week and badly damaged, where there's no running water and electricity. Some of those patients have acute needs, including ventilation equipment. Now, after it was evacuated yesterday, Israel said that the hospital was being used as a Hamas terrorist stronghold. Didn't offer any further detail or particular evidence in that statement, but it has previously said that it's arrested Hamas fighters from around the hospital facility. Hamas, for their part, have said that they weren't using the hospital as a base for themselves, and the hospital staff have said that it was nothing more than a medical facility.
Emir, thank you very much. Emir Nader there, live in Jerusalem this morning. Now, a threat to poison English water supplies during the period known as the Troubles in Northern Ireland is among the revelations in the latest release of Irish state papers. Each year, documents relating to the near 30-year conflict are declassified and made available to the public. Our Ireland correspondent, Sarah Gervin, reports.
Every year, the Irish state papers are released, and every year they give us a glimpse of previously secret government files dating back decades. This release details a threat received in 1999 to poison England's water supplies on behalf of what was called the Republican Revenge Group. It threatened to introduce weed killer into drinking water through fire hydrants unless the British government announced its intention to withdraw from what was described as occupied Ireland. Plans may appear far-fetched, but the threat was taken seriously. It was thought most people who drank contaminated water would suffer nothing worse than a stomach upset, but media representatives were asked by the government not to report the story for fear of causing panic over what could have been a hoax. The papers state that a man was arrested over the threats but never charged. Other documents from 2001 show that the US administration, led by George W. Bush, was considering designating the real IRA as a foreign terrorist organisation. Sweeping notes to Irish politicians warned that the plans might give the dissident Republican paramilitary group an unintentional boost by encouraging recruitment. The real IRA was responsible for the 1998 Omagh bomb, which killed 29 people. It was the single greatest loss of life in 30 years of violence in Northern Ireland, known as the Troubles. Ultimately, the US did add the real IRA to its list. This release of documents also details a football kind of gaffe from former Prime Minister Tony Blair. He's reported to have asked a nationalist politician if his party would be supporting England in the 2002 World Cup after Ireland were knocked out. Sarah Gervin, BBC News.
Now, Pope Francis has become the second Pope to share his thoughts of the day on BBC Radio 4. His contribution to the segment, which is normally just before 8 o'clock, so it's only just happened, it sees individuals from major faiths share their reflections on the world around us. It was recorded in Italian, then translated into English, and the Pope's broadcast focused on hope, kindness, and humility.
A world full of hope and kindness is a more beautiful
A society that looks to the future with confidence, treats people with respect and empathy is more humane.
Sticking away before, if you're an early bird, although I'm not sure it would be too familiar to us because we're already coming to do a different
You know, don't change channels.
This piece of music might be quite familiar.
The quiet at the end of the day as well, for the last one, about 1:45 in the morning.
Do you ever sleep?
It knocks you off. It's so calming, isn't it?
What's it called?
It's called Sailing By.
100 years after it was first broadcast, the special anniversary edition of the shipping broadcast is going to air this New Year's Day on BBC Radio 4.
Yes, the broadcaster's theme track, around the world, the Oxfordwoman Dame Ellen MacArthur. She was in the shipping forecast. And Ruth Jones, who plays Nessa in Gavin and Stacey. Oh, what's occurring in Norfolk Sierra?
There are all some famous faces who recreate historical versions of the weather report to mark its centenary. It's going to be very interesting. Elizabeth, morning to you. Do you ever listen to the shipping forecast? I mean, you're probably one of the few people in this environment here who understands it.
Yes, well, I read it earlier this morning. I was waiting for it. It's always a privilege.
It's a joy, isn't it? It'll be really interesting to hear how others do it. I'm sure they won't do as good a job as you. We need to know about this fog, don't we? Is it lifting?
Well, it will lift for some of us, I think, today, but it's really quite murky out there. Again, if you're heading out to the pub for a Twixmas drink, perhaps a Twixmas tickle, later on today, then just be aware that some of this fog is likely to linger on even into the afternoon once again. So this is Lincolnshire earlier on this morning. It's really very murky out there. Once again, it's likely to cause some out and back on the road, and just be aware that visibility again is very poor, less than 10 metres. And of course, if you're flying somewhere, then the fog is also again affecting some of our major airports. It's just been trapped in this area of high pressure as it was yesterday. The winds are very light, and that's part of the problem because the winds aren't there to disperse all the fog and just make it lift and clear. Further north, then there is a wet front, so it's not like it's raining across Scotland and down to Northern Ireland. It's cloudy here, but I think we will see something a bit brighter later on as we start some showers across the Northern Isles. And perhaps just a little bit of fog clearance across North Wales and Northern Midlands that we will have through the afternoon, just as that westerly wind starts to pick up a little, but it's like staying very murky today, very light wind further south across many parts of England as well. Again, suggests it's likely to be very grey, murky day, feeling damp and underneath the fog, but it's not once or 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, but it will be high to the north. Now, overnight tonight, we've got a new cold front still pushing southwards and eastwards. There will be perhaps a few outbreaks of rain on it, nothing much. The wind is picking up, so this will help to break up some of the clouds tomorrow morning. So it's likely to be a bit colder, temperatures and those that are bigger. The rain starts to push into northwestern Scotland again tomorrow morning, and this is just likely to continue on and off throughout the day on Sunday. But here is our week weather front. So, just hoping to pick up those winds a little bit. Saturday, tomorrow is going to be a brighter and a breezier day. There shouldn't be too many fog issues tomorrow, though there may still be some knock-on delays, of course, with transportation. So do watch out for that. There's going to be a bit of a lingering problem there. But I don't think there'll be any fog around tomorrow at all. Perhaps a little through the morning, breaking up quite nicely as the westerly wind picks up. Some brighter skies as the cloud breaks up. The rain continues across northern Scotland, even to Aberdeen, as we head through the morning into the afternoon. Temperatures generally 9 to 11 degrees Celsius, milder feeling today. But look, colder air now into Monday across northern and eastern Scotland. These showers are likely to be weekly. Rain just sinking further southwards into northern England, further southwards to Dubai and
Elizabeth, thanks very much. We'll speak later.
It's just after 8:15. A doctor with motor neurolepsy is calling on more of us to start the new year with a spring in our step by taking part in a New Year's Day program in aid of MND.
Inspired by the late former rocky stars, Dr. Weir and Bob Barrow, as well as Rob's former teammate Kevin Sinfield, Luke Hainsborough is hoping to raise awareness and funds to help those living with the condition. It's all part of the 5-week WA's campaign, which each year sees tens of thousands of people sign up for a job, a walk, or a cycle in the My Name's Dodgy Foundation.
Luke Hames-Brown joins us now, alongside one of Dottie's former teammates, Kenny Logan. Good morning, both of you, and thank you both indeed for speaking to us. Luke, just tell us your story briefly, if you can, because you're a doctor, a GP, you'd actually just diagnosed someone with MND, haven't you? And then you got a bombshell of your own.
Yeah, so good morning everybody, and belated happy Christmas. Yeah, so I'm a GP, and around the time I was sort of developing symptoms, I actually referred someone into the local specialist team with possible MND, and then with me it all started with sort of early 2022. I noticed actually that my parkrun times were getting a little bit slower. I was kind of catching my foot, and I sort of thought, oh, it's cold, I've tweaked something, got a little injury, and then sort of over time it didn't get better, it got worse. I started to notice a little bit of weakness in my hands, and I was sort of finding things a little bit harder work than I used to. And then I was referred to the neurology team, and then went through a number of different investigations, and in April 2023 I was told that I had motor neuron disease, which is just, I mean, it's devastating news to hear. It's the last thing that you want to hear when you're going to that appointment, to find out what's going on. And yeah, and sort of that was kind of my story really, and since then my symptoms have continued to progress. MND is a progressive degenerative neurological condition, so it does continue to get worse. People develop their symptoms at different rates. I'm very fortunate in a way that my symptoms are developing quite slowly, which has enabled me to continue doing quite a lot, but I do continue to gradually get worse. So, you know, I've gone from running 23, 24-minute park runs, trying to push down towards 20 minutes, through to, you know, it eventually starting to take me an hour to walk park run with sticks, and now I tend to volunteer at park run most weeks instead, just to try to balance my energy levels. So it's had some really sort of, you know, it's had a pretty huge impact on the things I can do and how I do it, but making those adaptations, keep trying to do something different.
Luke, good morning, it's Naha. I'm looking at the top you're wearing. What happens next is up to us, and it's a quote from David Attenborough. It's kind of quite apt, really, isn't it? Because you can only do what you can do, but you are doing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a favourite jumper of mine. I do think it's a really pertinent comment. Obviously said about the world and the environment, which is something I'm very passionate about as well, but actually I do think it applies to our attitude in life, and something I've always kind of said the whole way along is that a condition like MND is something which it will inevitably dominate your life. You know, I can't pretend otherwise, but one thing that I can do is I can define the narrative of how that happens. You know, I can choose to use the time I have to make positive memories, to do things for people I care about, to do things for other people. I've got involved in fundraising as a result of that, and that's how I've become involved with My Name's Dolly Foundation and Dolly Aid, and I think that's something very true. You mentioned the top segment that we're sort of calling on people to sign up to a park run as part of their Dolly Aid, you know, efforts that they're making, and to sign up to Dolly Aid. I think by doing that, people are helping to define the narrative of this disease. You know, we still need to do more. Thanks to people like Doddy and Rob, you know, Stephen Darby, you know, we've done a huge amount. You know, we're so much further forward than we were. We still need to keep going. There's still more to do. You know, we still don't have a cure for this disease. We still have significant meaningful treatments, and people can help define that narrative by signing up and doing something fun.
And Kenny, this is exactly what you've done since the beginning. You're obviously a good friend of Dolly's. Morning to you. And I understand you lost a friend this week. Please do accept our condolences. But it's being present, isn't it? It's being part of this that matters.
Yeah, it's a real movement. I think what Dolly and Rob and Ed Slitt and Stephen Darby have done to create the movement for people giving hope to people. And Dolly Aid is another way for, not just, it's good to move at that time of year anyway, it's good to move every time of year, but certainly Dolly Aid is about just being part of a big community. It's good for your own well-being as much as it's helping M&D awareness, but also raising money. You sign up, you get snowed. This year's a bit different. It's countries this year, so we've got a British and Irish line, feel about it. Scotland, England, Ireland, Wales. We've got my wife Gabby as a captain, Anton Tibet, Jimmy Nesbitt, Sam Warburton, Alan McCoy's. So we've got a lot of really good captains. Over the past 4 or 5 years it's been going. There's millions of pounds, and this year Foundation have committed 18 million to research, and as Luke said, it's underfunded. We need to keep raising money, and we've got to give people with M&D hope, and we're fighting for it because it's a horrific disease. And as you said, this week I lost Scott Stewart, was a friend of mine, played rugby at my local rugby club, and he was a big champion for M&D, and right to the end. And I think we're giving these people voices who've got M&D, and they can come out fighting, because previously there had no voice, nobody backing them. So we're here to back them, and certainly from Geordie, every penny goes into Geordie, goes into that research, and that's really important to try and find some sort of cure or some sort of dent on this disease.
And Kenny, you obviously speak in the course of your fundraising to the scientists and doctors who are on the front line of this. How optimistic are you that progress, real meaningful progress, is being made there?
I think when Dolly first was diagnosed, there was a lot of scientists trying to do stuff that didn't. There was a lot of funding, and you didn't really see much of a hope. And Dolly was really, it was about how do I find something for me, but very quickly he realised it wasn't about him. It was about people who get it in 10 years or 5 years' time. So I think from when we first started, there was nobody could see hope. I think there's a lot of hope now. There's a lot of doors opening. I think Luke might know more than I will, but from a point of view of the amount of people now researching M&D and trying to find a cure, we're getting there. And the more money we raise, the quicker we get there. So that, when we had COVID, you put a lot of money and you can find something. So we've just got to keep trying to raise as much money as we can. And I think we will find something to make an impact in this disease.
Luke, it's probably worth you picking up. I mean, I was going to ask you just a quick thought on, the research that is being done, if you're optimistic, but someone out there watching today will go, I can't run, it's not for me. Give them a kind of a little boost of motivation, perhaps.
Oh God, park running is not just about running, it's you can walk it. There are some park runs which are wheelchair accessible. Park run is for everybody. My wife Kate and I started doing park run in 2018, and we've got our whole families involved. My parents, Kate's parents, doing park runs. You see people across all ranges, age ranges, across all abilities doing it. This isn't about having to be fast or super fit, it's about doing something for yourself, doing something for other people in this case, and getting out there and enjoying it. I've had so much support from the parkrun community from since my diagnosis, particularly, as I've got there, I've started using braces on my legs and sticks to walk with, and I just get cheered when people see me, and they encourage you to go around. There's people there until the very end, no matter who's running or walking, or how long it takes them. Anybody can do this. Absolutely.
You've absolutely ticked the box of motivation. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Listen, we wish you well. Good luck with it all. Dr. Luke Haynes-Brown, thank you. Kenny Logan, thank you very much. Good luck with it all. Thanks very much for talking to us on breakfast.
Thanks, guys, and thank you to Kenny as well.
It's lovely to chat to the family. It's 28 minutes past 8 right now. More than 1,000 critically endangered snails, some of which were bred in captivity here in the UK, have been released onto a remote Portuguese island.
The deserted island land snails were believed to be extinct until an expedition team discovered a tiny native population is set to outgrowing their numbers, as our science correspondent Victoria Gill can explain.
This is a story with some very tiny main characters. These are deserted island land snails. They were rescued from the brink of extinction and brought here to Chitose, where they've been living and breeding inside this converted shipping container.
These are snails that were at risk of extinction or thought to be actually extinct in the wild, so we were looking up to have them brought to us, and this is where we've managed to breed up from very low numbers to what we have here today, which is almost like 1,400 snails ready for release.
There are two snail species that the team are bringing back to their wild island home off the coast of Portugal. Iscular snails and even smaller geometra. They're prepared for their journey with a little scientific makeover.
We have UV markers. I noticed these are a metallic pen.
Why do they need to be marked?
Basically, so there are some individuals left in the wild, and we just want to be able to distinguish the ones that we've bred and released so that we can track them and track their progress. This is a Iscular snail. You can just see the shell is now marked with that green mark and there's a UV mark in the middle. They are ready to go.
The deserted islands close to Madeira and Portugal are their destination and their natural home. The largest of the islands, where the last snails were found, has had its habitat decimated, eaten away by goats, rats and mice that were brought here by people. So the team has transported the snails to the protected neighbouring island of Fukuoka. It's meant a long and precarious journey. After waiting for the ideal, cooler evening conditions, it's finally time to set the snails free.
We're going to release them, leaving clothes under the rocks, which will be the perfect place for the new life, where they have protection, humidity, and blood food.
This is a small but significant part of the mission to restore the natural habitats and wildlife on these mountainous Atlantic islands. If it goes well, more snails will be brought here next year, each bringing a small splash of colour back to their habitat. Victoria Gill, BBC News.
Let's talk to Gerardo Garcia, who's one of the people behind the project. You saw him in that film that is from Chester Zoo. You need to head for heights, don't you? Where you were releasing some of those snails. How optimistic are you that this will work?
It's very tricky because it's the first time. And when you try this, there are so many different components that it can affect. But we are very confident because there are other species of the snails already there. Okay. And the habitat is being restored for the last 20 years. So we feel that it probably is a big home.
You need, importantly, to get rid of the predators, don't you, that I guess have partly brought about the snails' demise in the first place. You need to move. So how difficult, what are the predators and how do you get rid of them?
We have two major components here. One is the goats, and obviously they are feeding on every single vegetable that you can find there, any plants. And then is the mice. There is no water in these islands. So what they require is just eating the snails to have a source of water. So you can imagine the few of the species is not very optimal.
You said there when you were placing them that they were really active. What does an active snail look like?
It's kind of an odd one. But during the summer, these goes in crates, go in planes. We keep it for 2 days in a hotel until the weather was good. And they stay there, they hardly move. So when we talk active, is that they start moving, they start feeding, and you can just see some movement in the snails. Most of the time, they just hide until the conditions are really good.
You said there were other species there, other snails?
There are other species of snails.
So do they all interact, how do they all interact in terms of territory? I mean, it's easy to kind of visualise it when you're talking about, I don't know, different species, different breeds of the same animal, and how they compete. But what are snails? How do they behave?
They use different elements, different parts of the habitat. Not all the snails live in the same place. The same that we can see birds that go on the trees and they go on the ground. Snails are the same. They can be some that they spend more time on the ground, some in the rocks, some in the plants. So they use all different types of habitats, and every single one plays a different role.
And So these particular snails, yes, it's great having them back, but why? Why is it great?
Snails probably doesn't seem like something, very valuable, but in fact it is very important for the life cycles of bringing the nutrients to the ground. So it's all this organic material that is left, the leftovers, the leaf litter, all these materials, somebody has to tie it up. And that is earthworms, it's dung beetles, it's the snails. They bring the nutrients and they put it baback to the ground. So you really want to have a very nice restored vegetation and habitat, you require these to play a role. At the same time, snails are very important for the culture. So you need snails to feed lizards, birds, and any other species. So they sounds very important as a minuscule snail, but in reality it's very important for the ecosystems.
And you've got a track record in this. You did it with a different species of snail in a different place in Bermuda. Just explain what you went from and where it is now.
Bermuda was a call for a rescue operation, similar that we have in Madeira. They call us and say, we have the last population. We're talking about a bunch of the snails in your hands. So we're not talking about more than that.
How big were they?
No bigger than a coin, a small little tiny coin. And we got that, and we have a team there at Chitose that is just dedicated day and night working on these species. We don't know what they eat, we don't know what they eat, we don't know what is their behavior. So every single day you have to try different techniques. We go from 60 animals, and 6 years later, we release it to more than 100,000. Now we know there are 6 populations in Bermuda, and in one single population, more than a quarter of a million. So this is one of the species that you can rest a little bit, and we focus now on
sorry, this is a really stupid point, but it just occurs to me from that small number. It's fine for the interbreeding in snails.
There's a challenge on that, on interbreeding. So that's what the teams, and we mark every single individual at the beginning. Right. So they know every single snail. Okay. They mark it and they know they're trying to mix those in. But we work with very, very critical genetics.
What's the kind of, like we watch nature programs and you see the hierarchy, say in Pride of Lions or something, how does it work with snails? Are they sociable with each other or are they just...
They interact, they have chemical clues, they can interact between them. Mostly they are hermaphrodites, so they need each other to breed as well. But yeah, they are having interactions, and they can attack each other, they can repel them. So they are very, very interesting, the behavior they have each other.
Do you know, I wish I'd had someone like you as a teacher at my school, because it's just so interesting the way you explain it, and you're obviously so passionate about this. So when will you know if it's worked?
We review it. The team that we have in Madeira, they're working every month. So they go back to the island of Bujio, go and check every single snail because we marked it. And we need to see, first thing is, do they survive, of course? Do they breed? And then the next one is, do they spread? The first sign, after a month that we release them, very optimistic. But let's hold our breath. It's very early days. So we wait a few more months. And the next plan, if it all goes well, we do another reinforcement by March next year.
Yeah, I didn't expect to end today being a cheerleader for snails, but I am now. You've convinced me. Harade, thank you so much, Dr. Harade Garcia from Chitose, head of key capabilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Harade was just going to wait now while we talk to our next guests. Postal workers deserve a rest at this time of year, I'm sure you'll agree. They've had a busy few weeks. We're about to speak one, though, who really has earned the chance to put his feet up.
I think this is fair. Rocky Hudson, who was Britain's longest serving postman, has just finished his final night shift after 60 years of service. Joins us now from his garden in East London. I think you plan to spend a lot more time there, Rocky, alongside your son, Robert. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Good morning.
Right, Rocky, you've got to take us through kind of what your shift pattern life has been like working for the Postal Service over the last 60 years, and why you stuck at it.
I've had a fantastic year, to be quite honest with you. I loved it when I started in the post office. I started as a messenger and I stayed with it. I just loved it.
What was so good about it?
I've had a good career. I've had a good career.
Robert, just explain to us, there was a reason that your dad went on to night shifts and that he's done them for so many years. Just explain to people watching at home, and I'm sorry because it's a sad story, but why he did it and what you think of that sacrifice effectively that he made.
Well, he went up tonight after I lost my mother. Which was a sad time. I was only about 7 years old, and he went on tonight so he could look after his kids, which is fair enough, and he done a very good job. And he was always there for us all the time, and he done a wonderful job, and he's always been at the post office, and he's loved every minute of it. And he's had some good times there with all his friends, and he's met some nice people there, and I think he's sad to go, actually. I think if he had a choice, he would stay on. Yeah, so he's had a really wonderful time, and I think he's a little bit sad to go.
Is that true, Rocky? Any regrets?
Yeah, that's true.
What, tell me about...
It's time to go, but... It's time to go. It's time to go now. I've done 60 years, and yeah, let someone take over. See if I can keep up with me.
What was the leaving party like? What was the leaving do like? Because, like Robert said, you've got loads of friends there. What was the farewell like?
What was what like?
The farewell, the leaving do.
Oh, the leaving, yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was good. We had I was up the Mount Pleasant head office. That was good up there with all the managers and everything. Met the director, and we had to do him work as well. And that was good. That was good. And then when I left, like tonight, I've just finished an hour ago, and they all gathered around in a long line. And I had to walk through the middle of them. So yeah, that was good fun. Yeah, it's good farewell.
What will you be doing now, Rocky? I mean, I think you're a keen gardener. Have you got any jobs lined up? Because I can't imagine you're someone who sits around doing not a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've got loads of jobs lined up. I'll keep you busy. I'll keep you busy.
Rocky,
loads of gardening jobs I do.
You've done all sorts of different jobs over your career. I think in the end you were working, like sending people out and telling people, which routes they were on and whatnot. But when you were out on the road and you were delivering, I mean, how's the job changed? And did you have any near misses? You hear about posties and dogs or whatever. I bet you've had some hairy moments as well, have you?
Yeah, you get chased by dogs sometimes, but that happens to all of them. But you carry a couple of biscuits in your pocket to keep them quiet. You get used to it. You try and make friends with them rather than enemies. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've had a good career there. I've met loads and loads of people. I've met the King twice. Not the King twice, Prince Charles then, but
when did you meet him?
Yeah, that was good. That was interesting. That was very interesting. That was quite a while ago now. The first time was about, how long ago was that? It was about 6 years ago. Yeah, the first time. And then recently it was about a year and a half ago, wasn't it? When we met him again.
A glass of champagne on the red carpet.
Yes. Yeah, so twice I met him.
Very nice.
I tell you what.
That was interesting, that was.
I tell you what, you've spoken to us after you finished your final shift. It's a real privilege to be able to talk to you. You do not. You look very sprightly. Listen, enjoy your retirement. Thank you so much for talking to us, and it's lovely speaking to someone who loves their job.
Yeah. Thank you, Rocky. Thank you, Robert, as well. Wishes you all the very best.
Thank you. Lovely. Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
You too.
Happy New Year.
They're great.
60 years in the job?
Would you know they were father and son? They looked absolutely like two peas.
I don't know if Robert will appreciate you saying that. Rocky will appreciate it. I'm staying at LHS. I think that's one to stay out of, isn't it?
Shall we move on?
Yes, please.
We know what you meant. Who's celebrating? Arsenal behind us with a 1-0 win over Ipswich Town last night. So that closes the gap now in the Premier.